The principles of effective thinking compel us to acknowledge that what we get out of life is what we put into our own mind through our thinking in the first place. This involves adopting a realistic view of life, free of mysticism or unfounded beliefs. When you are guided by faulty interpretations on reality, particularly those that bring fear or negativity into your life, you are not only feeding your mind with incorrect and inefficient beliefs, but you are also attracting difficulties. When you feed your mind with problematic thoughts, you are instructing it to create problems.
The major obstacle to developing an effective and satisfying way of living has been our tendency to rely on mysticism, beliefs not based on objective reasoning for the decisions or the choices that we make. Obviously, if we base our judgments on faulty interpretations of reality, or if we act according to misleading concepts, it is going to be inevitable that our actions are going to be less than ideal. Consider a person trying to improve their financial situation while at the same time entertaining devoted beliefs that poverty is a virtue. It is like trying to drive a car with the handbrake on. Faulty thinking can be, and very often is, very dangerous because you actually become what you think about. If you imagine yourself being poor or living in distress, you increase the possibilities of becoming such a person. To live in a way that is practical and effective, we must follow reliable and down-to-earth concepts, and the easiest way.
Throughout this series, psychologist Hugo Rodriguez will be addressing the 14 principles that govern our lives. They are based on the latest developments in evolutionary psychology and portray life as it really is. By adopting this realistic view of life, you will be better equipping yourself with the means to make better decisions and participate more effectively in creating your own destiny.
What are some of these tenuous or unfounded beliefs?
Unfortunately, they are many. Take, for example, our intelligence. This attribute that has been so extensively considered as our most exclusive ability, a God-given faculty. The very name of our species, Homo sapiens, or thinking man, reflects this. The real story, however, is very different, as we will see later in this series. Other mystic beliefs involve mostly spirituality and faith. In the quest for answers, the human mind has searched for mystic explanations, and unfortunately, it has found many. But with the advent of quantum theory at the beginning of last century, a new light has been casted on these concepts. From searching into the unknown, now we are learning to search into our own consciousness. We have become the ultimate observer, and the results have been really amazing.
A common popular belief has been that our lives are predetermined. We believe in destiny and fate. Even Isaac Newton, the most influential scientist of modern times, believed that life was predetermined.
The concept of destiny or fate is an interesting one. Until quite recently, it was quite accepted in the scientific community that life was predetermined. It all started with Isaac Newton about 300 years ago. He tried to convince the world that if we had a machine accurate and fast enough to calculate the positions and the directions of all the molecules in the universe at any given time, then we could determine the state of the world at any time in history, the future as the past, was already determined, according to Newton, in the intricate states of the molecules. Later on, Albert Einstein followed the same reasoning. But in the 1920s, a brand new branch of science emerged that would change all these concepts forever. Quantum physics developed, and soon it became the most accurate and trusted scientific regime ever. To date, there has been not a single concept from quantum mechanics that was contradicted by observation. And with the advent of quantum physics came the uncertainty principle, which put an end to Newton and Einstein's dream that we can predict our future. Reality showed that it is impossible to measure both the momentum and the location of particles at the same time. Everything was unpredictable, and our destiny was in our own hands.
Your book refers to the theory of evolution. How is the concept of evolution important in generating mind power?
Evolution has given us the attribute of being more intelligent than other species. But this quality came with responsibilities, because our life, both as individuals and as well as a society, is now completely dependent upon our ability to think effectively. For other species, developing intelligence was a lot less necessary or beneficial, but for us, it became a matter of survival. In oncoming episodes, we will look at intelligence more closely and at how thinking effectively is not the same thing as thinking intelligently. We will see how to be successful and happy we need to think smartly, not intelligently.
You can compare our rational thinking to an army general giving instructions to the troops, who are the real executors of the strategies and actions. Without the soldiers, the general has no way to engage in battle, and even with a full army in operation, the general is still dependent on how well prepared, trained, and equipped the army is. Likewise, to be efficient and successful, we rely on preparing, training, and equipping our internal subconscious forces, our inner army, in charge of carrying out the strategies leading to achieving it. There is only one way to do this, using our own thoughts. With them, we can direct our power and resources, or our natural achieving machinery, towards what we want, towards what is most beneficial for us, and away from what we dislike and from what is harmful for us.
I'm sure a lot of our viewers would agree that life at times can be difficult and complicated. How can we use effective thinking to make it easier?
Yes, and this is a fundamental purpose of mind power. To make life happier and more successful, we need to make it simpler and easier. We can choose to make things very simple or very complicated for ourselves, depending on how we approach situations, how we look at things. Consider this analogy.
Assume that you are asked the simple question, how do you get 4? A practical, easy, straightforward answer would be, just add 2 and 2. But you can, if you want, make things a bit more difficult and answer 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. Or you can make it utterly difficult and decide that 4 is the result of this very long equation. All these calculations yield exactly the same result, but how you decide to answer can make your task either extremely simple or extremely complicated. When dealing with life events, a similar principle applies. We can be practical in our way of looking at things, or we can be cumbersome and unduly complicate things. The principles of effective thinking and mind power have been designed to make living less complicated and thus more enjoyable. In our next episode, psychologist Hugo Rodriguez will address what is perhaps the most profound of all scientific and philosophical questions. What is our purpose for living? In exploring this, he will also examine the role of our thoughts in this scheme of life.
because the answers we are looking for are provided mostly by what we can call quantum evolution, a look at the evolution of mankind, but taking into account fundamental concepts from quantum theory. The emphasis is switched from being a part of the complex picture of life to being the creator of this